Hello, good morning. It's Sunday. How's everyone doing today?
It is Happy Sunday.
It is Happy Sunday. It's really good to be here. It's also really good to be here at a normal
At a
morning
normal
time.
time.
Yeah. So I appreciate because normally when we go live later, it's because I had to work earlier. So we do the show later. So, I'm glad that we get to do the show now in the morning. Mars, it's been, I feel like, way too long since you and I have spoken to one another, except in the back where we're just like, how are you doing?
I am doing fantastic and fabulous and full of comics and soon to be full of Red Bull. So
Ooh,
it's going to be a very exciting show today. We've got 2 weeks to cover.
we
A
do.
lot of things have happened.
I feel like I was a bad comic book reader. I read all my books for this week, but I didn't read all of my books for last week. So I feel like I actually feel like I have like 3 weeks of books to catch up on. So maybe I'll spend some time
I
doing
feel
that
like I was a
today.
weird comic reader. I read 3 X-Men comics. 3 in the span of 2 weeks, which, if
Oh,
you
two
know,
weeks.
is a lot.
That is a lot for you. So we'll talk about those in a little bit. So we'll also talk about news. I also got this package from John for being one of the winners of Comic Gories. So I'll be opening that up in a little bit.
And I think it's just hilarious because I got my package and I immediately ripped it open like a wild animal.
Yeah,
So at least one of us has some fun stuff to share on the show.
we always have fun stuff to share. Well, I'm going to go ahead and say hello to everyone in the chat. So if you're in the chat and you're watching, go ahead and give a howdy. Would love to hear from you.
Hashtag
Um,
howdy.
Hashtag howdy, friends. Good morning to Chaos and Comics. Howdy. Hello. Super Stick Boy, good morning, all. Jennifer, is the Friday night group still gaining, or is everyone too busy? I feel like, we're the Friday night group, Friday Night Live. We're still doing it. We're not doing it on Ryan's channel, but we're doing it over on Will's new channel. So you'll need to find us over there. We all usually post about it. And hello to our friend Scott. I got to hang out with Scott this last Wednesday. There was a live taping of Marvel by the Month here in Portland, so that was really fun. Got to do that. Hello to John Stout. Good morning. Hi, all. And hello to Niall. Hello, everyone. Miss So. Morning, all. Finally started to read Saga. I don't know what issue you've caught up on, but we're going to talk about last week's issue. 50,
50. I don't know. I lose track at this point.
7. Yeah. So hopefully you can catch up before we start talking about 57. Just kidding. JD Barry. Hi, everyone. Hello. Comic Toby. It is party time. It's party time for sure.
Party time.
10 o'clock in the morning for me, 1 o'clock in the afternoon for you. It's definitely party time. Good morning. Feels amazing. So glad that we're here. Let's see here. Our friend Azorus Tiger. Hello. And then Poe Archery Media. Greetings. Love from Sankofa's Embrace. Yeah. If you haven't had a chance, please go ahead and check out this comic. It's incredible. It's got such incredible D&D, but with from a different perspective, and even the music, but please go check it out. And then hello, Jorm, I think I said hello, but I don't know, I don't want to miss anyone. Aggressively relaxing. Hey, Casually Comics, I love the show. We do too, and we love y'all.
You.
Manic 23, hello, thank you so much for being here. Hey, comic folk. So let's go ahead and if you want to get into some news, what's been some news over the last 2 weeks? Comic book, not comic book related?
So there really wasn't a lot of news. It was very quiet. There was some disturbances in the force, and then of course a very cool show that debuted by the name of Moon Knight. But we'll save him for later because I got a lot to talk about with him.
I got a lot to talk about
but
too.
You know what? Since it's been 2 weeks, I think it's time for us to start with some violence. I think we should start right off the bat with some violence, and I hope y'all are ready for it. So
we're gonna break some hearts right now. I can already tell you on this.
Mr. Sean Gordon Murphy, who famously wrote books like Batman: The White Knight, I can't speak for Jen, but I'm not a huge fan of that man. He's done some questionable things in the past, said some questionable things, writes some
I
questionable things.
I still have a weird special place in my heart for Sean Gordon Murphy simply because he and I bonded over Carl Sagan's Cosmos and made whale songs at each other at a convention one time.
Hmm.
That's all it takes, folks.
It's all it takes. It's very simple
make
for you.
weird whale songs at me and talk about Carl Sagan, and apparently I'm yours forever.
I thought I didn't realize it was that easy, but I'm glad to know that.
Yeah.
So Sean Gordon Murphy had a little book debut this week called Batman White Knight Beyond, which is yet another spinoff series to his outdated, overpopular, overrated White Knight series. I don't know. I'm not a fan of it. I think it's really weird.
I wouldn't call it that. I see its place. I definitely see that it tries to be dark and gritty in a different way than Batman is typically dark and gritty, I guess.
I'm still not a fan. I don't
I'm
like
trying.
it.
I'm trying
I don't
to
like
be
it.
good cop,
So,
bad cop here.
This just makes me really happy to say, so Sean Gordon Murphy made an Instagram post on Wednesday basically hyping up Batman the White Knight Beyond, because he basically fueled the fire underneath all of the speculators and was like, hey, Batman White Knight Beyond #1, cover A, really didn't get printed that much. I'm hearing that a lot of people on the East Coast aren't getting any of those covers. So if you want them now, make sure you scoop them up while you can, because they're going to be hot, hot, hot. Honestly, he just sounded like a really bad used car salesman.
It did.
And I'm going to be honest with y'all. Went to my shop. I'm on the East Coast. There were plenty of copies of Batman White Knight Beyond #1. And it's just ridiculous because now this book is spiking to $20 for no damn reason. And I feel like we already have enough problems with the speculator market and driving sales, and it's only gotten worse ever since the pandemic. So to have Sean Gordon Murphy kind of stoke that flame leaves a really, really bad taste in my mouth. And part of me wants to think that, oh, well, maybe he did have concern that, there was some printing issues, which there may have been, but not in the extreme that he was making it. Part of me also wonders if maybe he did this to drive hype for his book, because as far as I'm concerned, the last 2 series, I believe, that he's done have not really done well. They've done kind of poorly, and it almost feels like he's trying to capture that lightning in a bottle that he did with the first Batman White Knight.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man, it just all kind of seems weird to me. Why are you on Instagram saying people need to buy up all the copies of your books if you're not just trying to promote yourself?
And I think what it is I think that there were probably lower initial sales, pre-sales, pre-orders for this book. That would be my speculation, is that there weren't enough sales. He wanted to like drive and push. Maybe there was, because I did hear from a couple people that yes, like trying to get cover A wasn't as easy. Maybe not all of them got allocated to the shop. So I think that there were some issues at some shop, but it doesn't seem like a whole industry type thing.
Yeah.
I could definitely see that when the original series was originally published, the market wasn't diluted with as many Batman books, right? It's not like we had 20 other Batman titles that it's competing with, like spin-off series and things like that. It is also a like continuation. So I didn't read it, but from what I understand, you do need to read the first one in order to get into this one. So I think that's immediately going to drop people off from it. So I could see that sales weren't that great. He wants to hype it up, and it does. It really feels like a car salesman being like, these models are going fast. You got to pick one up. But in reality, it's just the end of the month and they need to make their like commission or bonus or whatever. That's what it really does feel like.
It's all really bizarre and really weird. And I saw this book trending and speculating all around, and I couldn't figure it out at first. And then, one thing led to another, and I was like, well, that kind of all makes sense now. And if I'm being quite honest with you, I'm on his Instagram right now, and it almost looks like he's deleted the post.
Oh, no.
I think he's actually deleted it.
One of the things that I noticed, I don't know, I would really love to know in the comments, like, where do you get your spec news from? Because I know it's not this channel. Maybe it is this channel. But, like, where do you get your spec news from? I know that one of the apps that I use is key collector, and it will be like spec of the week, like these are some hot books for the week. And there was a note specifically under this book that was like, hey y'all, just a heads up, we're noticing kind of a spike in this. It seems like there's some chatter around this book. Don't go and buy overpriced books. And this is me being anti-spec. Please don't pay more than cover price for this book. In reality, someone probably got the message that this book was going to be underprinted, went out and bought 20 copies. Wait a couple weeks. If you really want this book, wait a couple weeks, wait a month or so.
And it'll be there for you.
And it'll be cover price again. Please don't pay any more than cover price for this book. And what's sad, I think about this whole like speculation and like thinking about books like this, that I'm like, yes, I want people to go out and buy these books. The sad thing about it is that I don't know anyone talking about this story other than our girl Carrie over on Officially Unofficial Geek, who has done a review of it. I don't really hear many people talking about this book, and it's sad because I want more people talking about the actual book. Yeah. Yep. YouTube channels, Twitter, Reddit, reading old books. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was pretty much it in terms of news. I feel like it's been quiet in terms of comics. Nothing too big has happened. Nothing problematic has really happened, which is always a good thing because I feel like comics are drama and, you know, we live for it. But sometimes it's nice.
Are we the drama?
Are we the drama? Are we the problem? Is this play about us?
Is this play about us?
So yeah, there's nothing too much. However, there was kind of a little show that dropped this week by the name of Moon Knight.
Yeah.
Reefer Man, I hope you're new here, pal.
Yeah.
You must be new here, pal, because we have some very strong feelings about Image Comics' Reign. Yeah. I believe you can actually view those thoughts on the last video on this channel. So if you're curious how we feel about Reign, yeah, they're there and waiting for you.
It's a hot button issue in this house.
It's a hot button issue in this house. So Moon Knight came out. Disney Plus. First episode. What do you think? How you feel?
I didn't love it.
No.
Sorry. So here's my perspective. I was really excited for Moon Knight. I lost some excitement when I heard Oscar Isaac doing that like weird ass British accent, and maybe weird ass British accents are like a point of contention for me. You know how I feel about Keira Knightley and her fake ass, real ass British accent. And I went in very gently with this first episode. I feel like it was discombobulated. I feel like it was messy. But I know that it's supposed to be because the character is very messy. I do understand that. But I tried to take a step back and see this first episode as someone who has not been introduced to the character before. And I feel like someone stepping into this first episode of Moon Knight would be very confused about who this person is. And I think that out of all the shows they've done, for most of the shows, they've done like a second and third, or sorry, like at least 2 or 3 issues at the very beginning. They didn't do that with Moon Knight, and they really needed to. That's my personal opinion. I still love Oscar Isaac. Like, Oscar Isaac can 100%, 1000% get it. But I didn't love the one first episode we got. I'm sorry. I'm breaking hearts.
I am now accepting applications for a new co-host that is available every Sunday starting at 1 p.m. EST and ending at around 3 p.m. If you or somebody you know would like to put in your application, you can send that application to thatcomicgirl@gmail.com. Anyway.
Shamed. I've been shamed on my own show.
Moon Knight episode 1 was everything.
We should have started with you. We should have started with you. Bringing it started on a high. Let's end Moon Knight on a high note.
Moon Knight was everything I ever wanted. Episode 1 was the most perfect thing in my entire life. We watched it Wednesday night. I looked at my partner and I immediately was like, I want to watch it again. And I'm gonna watch it again after the show. I already have made plans. I'm gonna do some cleaning around the house. I'm gonna put Moon Knight on in the background. I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna have a good time. I love Moon Knight. Moon Knight is a very special character to me. He's probably one of the first characters that I really connected to when I eventually started reading Marvel. I've talked about it before. Jeff Lemire, Greg Smallwood, their run on Moon Knight is iconic to me.
Amazing.
And you know, it's just one of those characters that I wanted to see adapted, but I was worried that they would play off more of the old. He's basically Marvel's Batman shtick, and we would get less of that mental illness, you know, light taken to it, which we've seen more recently in modern comics, and that's not the case. I absolutely love the fact that his mental illness is at the forefront and it's almost played off as like this mystery type thing, because that's how it is played in the Jeff Lemire and Greg Smallwood run. If I'm being quite honest, when I first read that book, knowing nothing about the character, his revelation that he has DID was a shock to me. It almost felt like a twist. And then I had to go to Google and be like, well, was this always a thing, or is this something they created just for this run? And I loved this show. I love the stupid little song that plays in the beginning when he's getting ready. I love his little, you know, manic moments when he switches between Mark and Steven. Like, I think that those moments are really, really great.
I do like that, especially when it's like, oh,
I
the
love the
stupid one's
editing
in
of it.
control. Yeah.
I love the editing of it. I love the fact that it kind of just, it comes out of nowhere at times, and then you're just kind of left in the aftermath, and then you as the viewer, as the reader, are left to kind of pick up the pieces alongside Steven and figure out this mystery together. And I am so, if we keep up with this type of energy, I am so excited to see where the rest of the show goes. I want this. This has probably been my favorite Marvel property in a long time.
Wow. You know, like, I agree with so many of the statements that you're saying. Like, I love the Jeff Lemire Moon Knight run. I am still kind of digging the, is it Jed McKay run that's going on right now? I still relatively like it. But I just, to me, Moon Knight is a confusing character. And I feel like the first episode could be confusing, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I still really like it. I'm still very excited. I will still be waking up Wednesday morning. It's Wednesday, right? Wednesday morning, watching that like first thing. So
I love it. I love it so much. That being said, this is my PSA for you to read the Jeff Lemire Greg Smallwood run if you haven't already, because it is being reprinted. So it is the perfect time for you to jump on it. This is also my warning, because there are people on the internet that are already doing this and it's disgusting. Please stop shipping Mark Spector and Stephen Grant, because the idea of shipping personalities is weird. Why are you shipping their personalities?
I say keep doing it.
Person.
That, and I can't recall which one it was, but there is one of his identities that is queer. It wasn't really written that great, but I say ship them. I say ship them. Let that ship go off beautifully into the queer sunset.
We're on two different points of the spectrum on all standards featuring Moon Knight, y'all.
Yeah. Maybe I also need to go back and read the Jeff Lemire Moon Knight. I think I've got the first couple of trades up here. So maybe I need to go back and reread it and really like maybe have that give me more of a sense of the show. But I didn't love the first episode the way that I immediately was in love with Loki, almost immediately in love with WandaVision. I didn't feel that. And
I
feel things.
Oh, do I want to say this out loud? Do I want to actually put this in the air? I think I loved it more than WandaVision. And that's a hard thing for me, because WandaVision dramatically, if I will, WandaVision literally changed my life.
Yeah.
So the fact that I'm saying Moon Knight might be, I mean, it's hard to tell because we're only on episode 1. WandaVision's complete. So we'll have to see both come to fruition, and then we'll have to compare the two. But it's close. It's very close.
It is. Speaking of, well, this isn't really a Marvel property, but there was a big blockbuster movie that came out this week that everyone seems to be raving about, and that one is Morbius.
Morbius. That's a
Has
thing.
I want to know because, like,
Have you
basically,
seen Morbius?
I
Did you spend real, tangible money on Morbius? Let us know in the comments below. Because if we say, "Did you see Morbius?" and then you just tell me that you pirated it, that does not count. I want to know: did you
yeah,
spend real life dollars, not rewards points, not gift cards,
not
not
sneaking, not
not your
sneaking into the
girlfriend
movie
or
theater
boyfriend, bought you a ticket, or
or
mom or
their
dad
friend.
took you to see it? Did you, with your own money that you have worked very hard for, did you see Morbius? Because I
I
just want to
paid
know.
I paid Monopoly money to go see it. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I haven't paid money to go and see it. I haven't really been interested in seeing it. And I'm really curious. Is there anyone out there, one, who saw it? Is there anyone out there who saw it and enjoyed it? Because I'm not gonna shame you for liking it because I haven't seen it,
I'm
so
just
I
gonna
can't.
question you.
I'm just gonna question it and be like, I really need a hype person for this movie for sure.
I have no desire to see Morbius, and the more I see about it, the more I laugh about it. And I read a review, and somebody put it best, that this honestly feels like a generic vampire movie that was AI generated.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that actually makes sense from everything that I have seen in the trailers. That being said, I have seen the post-credit scenes for Morbius, and I will not spoil here in case there are any friends who either want to see it themselves or want to sit through the entirety of Morbius just to see the end credit scene. But the end credit scene apparently is very hilarious. It makes
Hold on.
absolutely no
I
sense.
I need to know something. Did you pay actual hard dollars to see
The
the
end
end
credit,
credit scene? Otherwise, it doesn't count.
absolutely,
Otherwise, it doesn't count.
it doesn't count. I searched far and wide on Twitter, if that counts. I
Yeah.
searched very
Okay.
hard for it.
I'm really curious. Part of me, as a I wouldn't call myself a completionist, but I'm like, do I need to see this movie in order? But I think my general feeling, and once again, this is having not seen the movie, is that Sony, please just let go. Let go of
Just let it
Marvel.
go.
Let free Britney. Like, we need to free Marvel from Sony. We need to have as big of a campaign as, like, restore the Snyderverse. Like, can we restore the Marvelverse and just free us from hashtag hear me out, restore the Marvelverse and just get rid of all the Sony stuff, please and thank you. I don't know. Venom's not too bad, but
I just
I think that there's some people uh asking about it, but I feel like
I don't want to spoil it here. So if you're really that curious, DM me after the show. I will tell you in full. I will record a little video. I will send it to anybody who wants to know. And I will tell you how the ending of Morbius, or the post-credit scene of Morbius. I will share my knowledge with you because I feel like this is knowledge that needs to be shared.
agreed. Um really quick because any other news? Any other
No news. No news.
no nuns. No nuns, none. So those are what we do in the shadows. Have you watched I'm just going off on a tangent. Have you watched Our Flag Means Death?
Not yet. It is on the list. I have a couple shows that we're watching through right now before we are allowed to start another one. Because we are that household that allows us to 2, sometimes 3 shows, and that's it.
Yeah.
You gotta be able to rotate. You gotta rotate, and then you have those shows that you're watching by yourself. You don't watch together. But no, Our Flag Means Death. I very much want to watch it. I've heard very much that it is gay, and it's Taika Waititi. So you kind of got me in a box here.
Yeah, 100%. Taika Waititi. I know you're watching. 100% you can get it. I feel bad because I watched the first episode and I feel like the first half of the first episode was really slow. And I'm like, I'm going to turn this off and maybe watch it later. And I haven't gone back and tried to watch it. But after seeing, I know like Taika Waititi, I saw him doing a dance in like a leather outfit and I'm like sold. Make whale noises at me, dance in a cute leather outfit. And those are the 2 ways to
And
get.
that's it. That's all we need.
That's it. Yeah. So I need to watch that. Before we get into this week's and last week's comics, I do want to open up this box from John. Or if maybe people want to tell me if they want to see it last or if they want to see comics first. Let us know. Let me know in the comments. What do you want to see? Do you want to see a quick little unboxing, or do you want to see some comics?
I think you should do a quick little unboxing while we're here. Why not?
Yeah, why not? Can totally do that. So if you wanted comics, you're gonna have to wait.
As Miss So says, open the box. What's in the box?
What's in the box? So John did write a very nice little letter right here. I'll probably read this afterwards because it's probably
gonna make you cry. Listen, I got a very similar package from John. 10 out of 10 made me cry. John, if you're listening, I haven't had a chance to personally thank you because life is insane, but thanks for making me cry.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and open it. Did get, this is pretty cool. So I got this box. We both got one because we won Comic Gories together. You know, maybe that's a thing. I have been on Comic Gories twice before this, one time before this, and failed. And it means that we can only do Comic Gories together because that's how we win.
You got your little medal.
Got a little medal right here. Put it right there. Let's see what else is in here. So I knew that I was going to get a trade because John was like, here's a bunch of trades. Pick one. And so I went ahead and picked this one, and it's the complete short stories of Hellboy.
I knew you were going to pick that one.
Yep. So it's a nice thick boy. Really excited to dig into this because I've read a lot of the Hellboy series, but I don't think I've read nearly anywhere near the short stories. So excited to get into that. But then it looks like I also got a couple little single issues here. So I'm going to go ahead. Got the nice little pull tabs. I always appreciate when people make like nice pull tabs for things because that's something that I never really think about doing when I send stuff out. So, okay. So let's go ahead and see what we've got here. So first thing is going to be, what is this? Ooh, okay. So Eternals, issue number 4, by Kieran Gillen and Asad Ribic. Ooh. So issue 3. I think I may have a couple of these issues, but I never finished reading this. So, also this cover, and I'm trying to figure out. So then we got this Thanos cover as well. And then this one, and I'm trying to figure out who this artist is, but I can't figure out. This is issue number 1. I can't figure out who the artist is for this one. So anyone, I don't know, maybe Scott, if you're in the chat, if you have a good eye.
It kind of looks like J. Scott Campbell.
Is it really?
It looks like J. Scott Campbell.
I saw a signature.
That is a J. Scott Campbell. You can tell by the tiny waist and the button nose.
And the maybe lack of ribs.
The lack of ribs, the dead eyes, you name it. That is J. Scott. To a T.
The blowjob lips.
The blowjob lips.
Yeah, I love the Kirby Crackle looking stuff on the background though. I love that. So
I'm like Googling the internet, J. Scott Campbell Eternals, and yep, there it is.
There it is.
There it is.
Well, thank you, John. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna read this letter afterwards because I know I'm gonna absolutely fucking lose it. And you gotta pay good money to see me lose it. Subscribe to my Only Tears.
Only Tears? Oh man, I could make so much money off of that. I give away so many of my tears for free.
Yeah.
Oh, sad.
Only cry on the clock. Never cry off the clock. That's my motto.
I agree. All right. So what comics are we talking about? We got lots of comics to talk about.
We do. Do we want to do Marvel, DC, Indie? What's the chat looking for that? Vote now. And
vote now.
Go ahead and tell us, do you want us to do Marvel? I've got a couple Marvel. I've only got like 3 DC that I've read in the last
couple. Well, actually, no, I think I'm split right down the middle. I think I'm split right down the middle with DC, Marvel, and Indie. I think I'm well-rounded right now.
Mm-hmm.
I like Scott's little BRB with his dog. I'm assuming that means he is I believe that means you're walking the dog. I like that. I like these.
Yeah.
I like these little emoji games that you guys play. Sometimes you throw up just emojis, and then I'm stuck to decipher what it is you mean. I love it so much.
It looks like so far in the chat, Indy has 1, 2, 3. DC has 1, 2. Marvel has 1. Anyone want to be a tiebreaker for what we talk about? Indies. Any? Next one that comes up could be a tiebreaker. We've always got a lot of indies to talk about.
We do. We always have indies. I think we do got to go with indies because we've got 3 for indie, 2 for DC. Yep, 4 for indie. There it is. So I guess we're starting off with indies. What indie books did you read, Jen? You've got 2 weeks worth. What did you read?
So I read Bolero by Wyatt.
Starting off with the heavy one.
The heavy one. This book just continues. So this series is just absolutely incredible. It love, loss, relationships. It's so beautiful. This one definitely feels, I don't know, it's not as R-rated as the last issue was, but that's kind of hard to beat. But I also feel like it was really heavy.
It was a very heavy book. So I feel like a complete idiot because when issue 1 came out, I literally was like, I'm on the fence. I don't think I like this book.
And I was like, I love this.
I think this book is kind of upsetting me right now. And then we got to issue 2, and I'm like, I'm on the bandwagon. I kind of really, really like this book. Issue 3 is solidifying for me that this is book of the year. I hate to say it. We're already still so early. We're only in April at this point, but
we're at least a quarter through the year. So
we're at least a quarter through the year. But Bolero is going to be that book of the year. It really is. So in issue 2, we kind of focused on our main character time hopping. Because the premise of Bolero is, has a girlfriend that they go through a breakup, but she thinks that this is the only woman she could ever love. And so she's basically offered a deal where she can go through different dimensions and basically time hop dimensions.
In different versions of her life. And some of them get really wacky because in issue 2, we see her in this like Elizabethan era. And it did get kind of like hokey because in the first one, it was like, oh, we're going to go into a different era where you're a boy. And that just feels like cheap writing. No. It is not cheap writing.
It was very well done. But they basically time hop through all these different dimensions to find the best version of themselves that they're happy with. So that way they can find the best version of where they're essentially in love with their ex and can stay in that forever. But the rule is if you jump, you can't go back, and you only have, I think, what is it, like 67 jumps or 63 jumps that you can take. Like and if not, then you're stuck in that last one. And in a turn of events, issue 3 kind of reveals that our main character, because names are blanking on me right now, but our main character has been in this universe for a while. And even more fascinating is the fact that they are happy with another person, not even with the person that they were jumping through all of these dimensions for. And it's really interesting to kind of see how their relationship plays out and to see how emotions change and to see how times and places and people change and how, you may think that this person is the right one for you, but, turn a corner. And if if you're so hyper fixated on one person, you might lose the other people that come into your life.
And I think it does have like a very interesting, like when I think about modern dating, which I don't do like apps, anything like that, could never survive on like Tinder or Bumble or any of those. But I feel like, for some people, there's like this endless aisle of people that they could date on apps. And so I don't want to say that people aren't settling anymore, but I feel like people are always, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? Is the next
what else
going to be
there?
better for me? And I feel like this is kind of that, but it's also, like you said, where it's like once you stop focusing on like this one person, you do get to see the next person, I guess. Yeah.
Not only that, but this book, I think, wins not only book of the year, but maybe book of all time for having one of the greatest panels of all time. Because there's a part where our main character and her new partner is, they're messing around and they're joking about one another. And she says, fine, keep your secrets. And in the little thought bubble is a little image of Frodo from the Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
And I honestly, listen, if that line was just in the book, we all would have known. I mean, if you're a Lord of the Rings fan,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're just on the internet, because at this point it's a meme, we all would have known the keep your secrets line and the reference to it. But the idea that they were able to Photoshop in a little Elijah Wood Frodo head honestly makes this book that much more special. And I kind of wish more books would do stuff like this and have the balls to see if they can get away with it, because I got to that point and I was like, all right, this is it, book of the year, 10 out of 10. And then I kept reading and I'm like, oh, wait, no, this really is book out of the year, 10 out of
Yeah.
10. But
this really is a fantastic, fantastic book.
I can't preach this book enough. It is so, so good. I personally, and I feel like you've been saying this for a while now, we feel like Image Comics has gotten a little stale, and its publishers,
1,000%.
It's publishers like Aftershock and publishers like Volt and publishers like Mad Cave that have been kind of filling the void of what Image Comics used to be, and why a lot of us fell in love with, books from Image like Sex Criminals and Rat Queens to some extent, and Saga. And it feels like we're kind of, this book kind of is that in a bottle type thing, and I love it.
Yeah. I think that, especially over the last 2 years, where it's like there are some books that I really, really love by Image, like Philadelphia, but then Saga went on hiatus, and I feel like they were trying to, like, what's the next thing for Image? And it was just like, let's try to go as dark and gritty as we can. And we've got books like Noctera and Geiger, and all of them just kind of feel the same. This one reminds me of that, like maybe 2014, 2015, 2016 Image Comics, where it's like, so it's very genre-y, very genre heavy, but it's like, this is science fiction, this is fantasy, and this one is a blend of the two and just outrageous ideas. This one is dark and it's sexy, and the story writing is just incredible. The artwork to go along with it is incredible. And like, I want to say, I don't want to flip open this book because there's some nudity and like nudity on top of nudity.
We don't want to get thrown off of YouTube.
Yeah. But this is a pretty thick book. It's $5.99 for each one, and it is a limited series. So seriously,
it's 60 pages for each one.
Yep. And I think that this one's going to be a 5-issue miniseries or maybe 4-issue miniseries, but dang, is it good. Dang, is it delicious. Please. I cannot stop talking enough about this.
I think it might actually only be 4. I need to double check, because I thought it was going to be 5. And then I was double checking it. And I think we've got, okay, no, it is going to be 5.
Okay.
It is a 5-issue miniseries. So we have 2 more issues left. And honestly, with the way that issue 1 ended, or not issue 1, issue 3 ended, I'm very curious to see where the next one's going to go.
Yeah, I need to know how this gets like wrapped up. So if you haven't already gotten on the Bolero train, please do. This is me doing that Sean Gordon Murphy thing where it's like, hey, go out and buy this book. There may not be like enough printed or something like that. Seriously, please, please, please go buy this book. I'm pretty sure that there are some more copies at my store, my local shop, books with pictures, and some of them are signed because Wyatt Kennedy, I guess, lives nearby. So here you go.
So good.
What other books did you get for indies?
Well, since we're on the Image Comics train, and because somebody else did mention it, Step by Bloody Step #2 came out.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a really nice. I kind of like this book because it feels almost like a palate cleanser, because it is a non-verbal, non-dialogue book, which I really appreciate. I absolutely love non-dialogue, non-verbal books because I feel like there's so much more to the storytelling in them. Not only that, but it is basically big, strong creature and small young girl companion, which is my absolute jam. Like,
she lost her memory. She's trying to figure out the world.
Let me tell you, this is my jam. Not only that, but I mean, as somebody who hasn't seen it but knows enough about it, issue 2 at least gave me Full Metal Alchemist vibes.
Yeah.
So I feel like if you're a fan of that show or that manga, Step by Bloody Step is definitely for you. I really like this book. I think my only gripe with it, and I feel like I say this with almost every indie book we get, is why is this a periodical? Why isn't this an OGN? I just feel like, I mean, with Bolero, I kind of see there's cliffhangers month to month that I'm like, oh, okay, I can wait for the next one. But with something like Step by Bloody Step, it just feels like it would have benefited so much more if it was all compiled at once and then released.
I agree. And I think that because there's no dialogue in this, I 100%, I mean, there is dialogue, but it's like fake language, or
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's real to the people who are living it, I guess, but it's fake to me.
It's fake to
I don't
us.
know how to read it. But this one of the things that I noticed about this book when I was reading it is that there's a lot of pages that have a lot of panel work going on. And maybe this isn't the best example, but there's just like a lot of like silent panels here, or all of it silent panels. But I felt very confused, and I'm like, wait, what happened last month? What was going on? So I agree. I think that this would be a much better read if it was just all at once, and I could
Mm-hmm.
just from the beginning to the end. I still 100% I'm going to be picking up these issues as we go along. I'm still going to read it monthly, but I'm 100% also going to be reading the trade as it all comes out, cuz
Oh yeah, I think the trade will be so much more beneficial because I agree. I feel like issue 2 wasn't as strong as issue 1, and I feel like you kind of lose some things in between all of that.
mhm. Um yeah, 100%. I do wish that there was some dialogue just for my squirrel brain, but
For your
um,
squirrel brain and my goldfish brain.
mm, yeah, still beautiful. Love, love, love this book a lot.
Indie comics. There's kind of a big indie comics that came out last week that we have to talk about. And there it is. So we talked about issue
56.
56 and how we both felt about issue 56, and how it kind of angered both of us. Is that the right word? It kind
Yeah,
of, I don't want to
it
say annoyed because annoyed's the wrong word. We were legitimately angry over issue 56 and how issue 56 ended,
I
and
was
just kind of
100%.
it was
I
just
was
kind of the crassness of it.
It was, and I was 100% like, I think the triggered audience that it was supposed to trigger, like 100%. I don't want to reveal too much about this issue, but I fell for it, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
But there were still some things about this issue that I didn't necessarily like, but it's going into the flow of Saga where it like brings you here, then brings you here, then brings you up, then brings you down.
Saga's a very emotional book, and that's one of the things it always has prided itself on.
Yeah.
So in terms of issue 57, I feel like I don't know how I feel since we've had the return of Saga. I feel very, very, very conflicted on my feelings because the first couple issues of, or the first couple pages of issue 57, I was on board. I was like, this feels like Saga. This feels
It does.
what I've been wanting. It picks up directly after the events of issue 55. Or I'm sorry, issue 54. It picks up directly after the events of issue 54, kind of it allows us to kind of sit and stew in those emotions and feel it alongside the characters. I mean, granted, we've been feeling these since for the past 2 years, but now we can feel that alongside these characters that we've grown with, I feel like. And we can kind of see how they're feeling and match our feelings with theirs. But then it quickly, I feel like, jumps us back into this almost weird parallel timeline, if you will, because honestly, ever since we've had the return of Saga, I feel
We
like I'm in a very strange timeline that does not line up with everything we've been met with before.
No, because and you know, Banshee Queen says that they are not caught up on Saga, so I don't necessarily want to spoil anything. But at the issue 54, where we were left on a hiatus for a couple of years, a couple of very important characters die, and I'm sorry if that's going to be a spoiler for you, but like there's a couple characters that die. And then issue 55 for us several years later picks back up, and our characters are also 3, 4 years, however many years after,
Correct. And
and
I
no
just
clue
kind
where
of want to jump here for Miss So because I see that there was a comment from Wednesday Spoiler that says Lion Cat dies, we riot. Lion Cat is safe. That is the one spoiler I will give you today. Lion Cat is alive and well. They are fine. You do not have to worry about Lion Cat. We're
yeah.
just saying that if Lion Cat does die, and I agree with Wednesday Spoiler completely, if Lion Cat dies, I don't need to read this book ever again. It's fine. But
This
continue
issue,
your thought.
oh, Yeah, and so, like, this issue, like you said, brings us back to some familiar characters, some familiar scenarios, some familiar, uh, places that we were in previous, like, volumes. So in one of the volumes, spoiler alert, Alana goes and seeks an abortion, and
Welcome to Abortion Town.
yeah, and I think it does it in a very clever way. And in this issue, we see a throwback to where Alana had done this again, for a different type of surgery. So once again, don't want to spoil anything, but we also get to, I don't know, we get to see more of like the robot people. We get to see more of the Will, and I'm like, yes, this is the saga that I know, love, and remember. And then at the very end, I feel
It
like
ends on that dark note again. It ends on that very dark, brooding note, and it feels like
I was
at this
left in
point,
hope. I had hope.
I'm worried. So one of the things too is, you were touching on with these familiar characters and stuff. It feels like ever since we've had the return of Saga, we have basically been overwhelmed with new characters. There must
Mhm.
be half a dozen or more new characters. You've got this new pirate group. We've got the characters that are on the that are in the Robot Kingdom. And it feels very overwhelming because it feels like they're just kind of throwing people at us,
Yeah.
but not giving us time to learn about these characters, to connect with these characters, to grow with these characters. Whereas in previous volumes of Saga, we were introduced to characters like Gus, to Pretor, to Marco's parents, and we were given time to kind of, and very quickly, I might add, we were given time to learn exactly who they were, what their
Mhm.
motivations were, what is going on, and maybe this is that kind of, we don't want to tell you everything because we want it to be a shock to you,
Yeah.
but it feels very jarring compared to everything that we've known, and part of me wants to think, part of me questions rather, would I feel this way if there was only a month in between rather than 2 or 3 years? Because
I
right
think
now, Saga feels like a stranger to me.
it does. And I think that you're right. I think that if there had not been a 3-year hiatus, 2.5-year hiatus with Saga, this would feel like just another new character that gets introduced. But my question for you is, and this is what I'm about to say is going to be a little bit spoilery. So I'm going to give you about 10 seconds to go ahead and put us on mute. So, one of the biggest questions that I have for you, Mars, for me, it got teased, and I don't know, is
With the will, without saying it?
is this character someone else?
You think this character is somebody else?
I think this character is someone who died.
I don't think so.
You don't think so? So, like, go
That
to
thought
like,
never even crossed my mind until you said something.
so if you go to the, and once again, this is still spoilery, so I'm sorry. So the I don't know her name, but she's blue and has like, it looks like vampire teeth. She's like, what does she say to him? She's like, no, oh my goodness, where is it? She like moves her hand and she's like, you kind of look like him in a certain way, in a certain light. And she's like, oh, you're not him. Okay, cool. That guy was a heartless psycho. And then at the end, we're left with like, okay, copy that. So my guess is he's someone who died.
All right, we gotta talk about this more backstage because now that you have brought it to me, now that it's all I can think about. Again, if you have thoughts or feelings, but we don't want to spoil the rest of the crowd, obviously, please DM us and we'll be glad to share our saga thoughts because now my mind is in 40 different places and now I feel like I need to carefully reread everything that we've had so far. So thanks, Jen, for ruining
You're
my
welcome.
plans for me.
You're welcome. Yeah, I don't know if it'll just be one of those things where we're left on a cliffhanger and then in the next issue it'll just be like blown out of the water and kind of completely disregarded, but that was my feeling when reading this, and that's what I'm saying, I was not left in a pit of despair. I was left with hope when I finished this, and I'm like, this feels like this familiar saga to me.
Stuff to think about. So is it the
Okay.
next month so we can get more saga already? Please and thank you.
Yeah. Please and thank you.
Please and thank you. All right, so that was a lot to take in.
Yeah.
What else did you read this week?
This one's actually one from last week, and it's just fun. It's done by Bad Kids Press, and it's called Frankenrocker and the Jailbait Kids, Jailbait Punks, and it's really weird. It's like one of those like R. Crumb heavy metal type books that are just weird and wacky, and y'all know how much I love just weird shit like this. The colors are fun, so I would say that if you like that like Ed Piskor vibe, that cartoonist kayfabe, whatever it is, I think that you would like this. And it's really fun. It's weird.
It's weird.
I can't even tell you
Seal
a
of
plot because
approval.
I don't
It's
think it makes
weird.
sense. It's weird. Yeah. There you go.
Other books that I read this week. I saw Kaiser Jose talk about it. Animal Castle #4 came out this week. I believe this may be the penultimate issue. I saw Kaiser Jose in the chat, and I was trying to wait because you were in the middle of talking about how they believe that Animal Castle is the book of the year for them. However, that would be so if it didn't already exist, because Animal Castle, if you did not know, has already been published in full by a French publisher, and the issues that we are seeing now published by Ablaze Comics are just reprintings with English translations. So can we really count it as a 2022 book if that's the case?
I would say yes, just because of the important work that translators do.
Something
I
to
would
think
say
about.
yes.
Jen says yes. The rest of the chat, please chime in. If a book has just been translated and is currently being republished, because the same could be said for another book that we'll talk about today, can it be counted in, say, the Eisners as a best of 2022 type thing, or is it something that should be constricted to the year it originally released?
I would say give it a chance because Eisners don't, unless they have a specific European category, and it's already been nominated and maybe didn't get it, then I would say, yeah, I would say give it a chance. For sure.
So anyway, Animal Castle #4 came out, and this is a good book. I keep talking about it. It's a very slow burn book. I feel like this is definitely going to be one of those stories where when I read it in full, when it's compiled, too bad I don't read French, or else I could already.
Yeah.
But I feel like once it's compiled in full and we're able to get the full story, it's going to be one of those really classic stories that just has a lot to say and does so accordingly. So it's very much a take on the infamous Animal Farm that we're all, I'm sure, aware of, but it plays it off with these actual animals, and it's the rich versus the poor, and the rebellion, and how we kind of spark that rebellion and keep that fight alive despite all odds being against us. And I just think it's really, really interesting. I still think that I wish it had gotten a little darker as it showed us in that first issue, and I wish it continued to stick with that darkness, but I'm really, really enjoying it.
Okay.
And this is definitely a book that I would recommend even to those that don't read comics.
Okay. Do you think that this one, because of its ties to Animal Farm by George Orwell, do you feel like this is one of those books that could be tied into like literature classes? Like even if it's not like
100%.
necessarily as Manic 23 award winning, but do you think that this could be like, hey, let's go ahead and read Animal Farm, and let's go ahead and read Animal Castle, or like, let's see current events going on and try to
100%. I definitely think that this is a book that could be dissected and taught in schools, whether it's at a high school level or a college level even. I just think it's a pretty good book. I really, really like it.
Excellent. Very cool. One of the books that I only have a couple more indies left, and there's one that I have 5 covers of for this week. One of the books.
What book is that?
Something is Killing the Children.
Oh, that makes sense.
I still have a couple. I've got several left. I'm good. Did you pick up this one this week, Astro City? Did you happen to pick this one up?
I did not. That was a previous Image Comics one, right? And it was one of those ones that they kind of like a magic order thing where they're giving it new life and new breath.
Yeah. Maybe it's because of that. I didn't like it. I thought it was going to be a lot easier to understand picking it up, not having read the original one. It had a lot of really Yeah, excuse me. It had a lot of really cool covers that were like image based, like they did a Wicked and Divine variant cover and a couple other ones. I'm like, oh, this will definitely be right up my alley. It was not. Spoiler alert, I couldn't even finish this book. I was bored.
Oh, big yike.
So
And who writes that?
Kurt Busiek.
I don't even know who that is. Oops.
You do. Oh, I can't think of what else.
Chat, tell us what Kurt Busiek writes, so that way I can maybe familiarize myself.
I know if Scott is here. Okay, cool. Scott is in the chat. Flower got done pooping, so Scott should be back in the chat now, I hope. But I felt like there's been a lot of books that are trying to do the superheroes, but we're going to make them like actual people and give them actual like problems. So I feel like I would recommend books like Black Hammer more than I would recommend Astro City. I don't know.
Didn't like it. On to the next.
Yeah. One of the other books that I got this week, I don't think that you're on this book, but I love it because it's basically queer D&D and everything I wanted from Die but didn't get, and that's The Last Session. This book is doing this like friendship dynamic where they're in the previous issue, there's like someone in the D&D group that everyone is, not everyone, but most of the people are like, oh, we can't stand them. Like they always do this. And the DM is basically like, nah, like they're a really good person. And then the DM puts them, the whole group is basically like, well, we don't want to play with them anymore. So then the DM, as DMs will do, is like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and throw you into a scenario where you need that person and they're not here to save you. And this book is just so good. It goes between the D&D session that they're in and then the like real life friendship drama. It's like Euphoria, but no drugs.
I have read most of The Last Session. I didn't get a chance to read the final issue, but I don't think I would compare it to Euphoria.
It's like Euphoria, but without all the drug use and without all the drama and the sex and
Zendaya. There's no Zendaya.
Isn't. So, nothing like Euphoria at all. But I really like this book, and I can't wait for this to be like compiled, because I'd really love to see like a scenario of like The Last Session, the like campaign. I think that would be really cute.
It's a really great queer based all ages story that I think is just really easy for newcomers to get into, and is honestly a book that I will be forcing into the hands of every small child I meet. Well, not small child, but teenage child. Because it's just one of those really, really great stories. And Mad Cave continues to put out some really amazing, solid, young adult stuff, and they've got a new Maverick line with some really great titles that are they look extremely great, and I can't wait to get my hands on them.
I've only got 3 more indies now.
I have 1 more indie.
Okay. What do you got?
I have a little book that came out called We Have Demons.
Oh,
by a super hit duo of Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. And this was a Comixology original, and I guess is now being sent to print by Dark Horse Comics. And
it's not printed in like because sometimes what they'll do is they'll do a Comixology and they'll just give you the whole trade, like it came out in digital single issues, but then do just a trade of like the 4 or 5 issues,
like they did that with is it Jock Snow Angels?
Yeah.
Yeah, with Jock Snow Angels. But this is getting the issue to issue treatment, and I can only assume that that's because they were banking on the success of Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. And listen, y'all, I'm just so tired of this straight white man bullshit that should be stuck in the 90s. That being said, there's some gay representation. Well, I don't even know if it's gay representation, because now that I think about it, I don't know if when they said it's his partner, if they meant it as his literal just partner, or if they meant it as his relationship partner. I think maybe my queer brain took it as relationship partner, but I think they literally just meant his partner. Either way, so this book is, please don't make me recap. This book is so bad. So first of all, at this point, I am convinced that Scott Snyder only knows how to make one protagonist, and that is
Yeah.
the white tough girl with black hair. At this point, this character, and I don't even remember this character's name, this is the same exact character as his character in Noctera. And I'm
Okay.
literally convinced they're the same people. Maybe they're just alternate timelines. Maybe they're sisters. I don't know. So this book is just really edgy and really, it's stuck in the 90s and it's all heavy metal. Like, ooh, it's got demons and monsters. And at one point, the little girl loses her arm, but has it replaced by a robot arm. So that makes her even tougher and cooler. She ends up finding, she ends up finding out that her father, who was this church going man, and I think he was a pastor, he actually is part of this cult or group where they go out and they fight and kill literal demons. And now she has to take up his role of fighting and killing literal demons. And it's just, it has an audience. There's definitely a target audience for it. And that is, no offense, white boys stuck in the 90s. And it's not it, Chief. It's not good. It's not fun. There's nothing enjoyable about this. I'm literally the whole time like, can we get to the end of this book? It ain't it. It ain't for me. It ain't for you. It ain't for a lot of people. But there is a small audience there for it. So if you are a straight man stuck in the 90s, love heavy metal, think that the Batman run by Greg Capullo and Scott Snyder was the greatest thing since sliced bread, thought that DC heavy metal was the greatest thing since sliced bread, this book is for you. If you are like me and feel the opposite, do not buy this book.
I feel like when you say like heavy metal, I love heavy metal. I love heavy metal.
Me too. Look at me.
But I think what happens is that these types of books, I have read I read a lot of books. I read a lot of comics, y'all.
No, you don't say.
I do. And I feel like you said, I think that it's getting formulaic at this point, like you said, where it's like this like edgy. And I think for people who maybe have only gotten like one version of Superman, one version of Batman, of course Dark Knight's metal will be like, oh, this is incredible and this is groundbreaking. Like, oh, like you're telling me I haven't seen a like female protagonist in something. So like the one female protagonist that the straight white dude is writing, like, of course I want to go ahead and read that. But it's like when we've seen other better versions of it, it's really hard to be like, oh, this other new version that's coming out that's exactly like all the other. For me, it's hard to be like, I want to invest my time in that book, even though I'll read the dumbest shit like fucking Transformers, My Little Pony. 100% will read all day, every day, and I stand that.
This book was also just, it was edgy for the sake of being edgy. Like at one point, we get the big reveal at the end that there's demons and our protagonist has to fight against these demons. And the demons out of nowhere are yelling obscenities like cock, balls, anal fissures. And it's like, okay, so obviously you're just going down the list of all the bad words that you couldn't say as a 12-year-old, or maybe you did say as a 12-year-old, and you're just like making your demons scream it. And listen, I have a potty mouth, I swear, like a sailor, but I'm not going around just screaming cock and balls and anal fissures, because then
that feels like cheap writing to me.
It's cheap writing. It's not even. This was bad. It was why do people? I mean, I know why people like this. But I just have to say
why. Scott Snyder, come answer for your crime.
I know that John will love this book. John's Comics with Kids, if he's listening in at some point, this is going to be his book of the year. It's going to be great.
Yeah. All right. Well, I've got three other indie books, and I'll kind of go through them really quickly. There's two that I have that like focus on magic. One was called Cities of Magic, which is like this reimagined New York City that ends up in this alternate timeline that's like magical, and there's like centaurs and shit running around.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually really fun. I know that seems really like hokey of a premise, but I did actually really enjoy it, and the artwork was really, really beautiful. So not specking on anything, but I feel like Scout Comics does have a lot of books where it's like the first issue ends up spiking in price because of like, oh, we're going to adapt it. And then I never hear anything about it being
Well,
adapted.
that and they also have low print runs.
That's true. But I would recommend picking this book up, especially if you picked up By the Horns and liked it. I think that you would also really like this one too. So, Cities of Magic. The other one that I picked up that I really, really loved, and that one is Season of the Bruja. And this one is published by Oni Press. If you liked Mamo, I think that you would like this, but this one focuses on a young woman who is learning magic from her abuela. And they go to, my favorite part about this is they go to a museum where indigenous artifacts are on display, and they have this like relationship of like, are these artifacts serving our community, or were they just stolen from our community? And also balancing like being having traditional values but in a newer world, or a modern world rather. So a very, very beautiful book. When I was in the shop, the Aaron Duran, who wrote the book, who's a Portland native, had just finished signing a whole bunch of copies. So if you go to Books with Pictures, you can get I think that there's still some left, but you can get a signed copy of issue 1. Once again, it's done by Oni Press, which I've really just, a lot of the stuff that they come out with, I end up really liking, even though they're not publishing a lot of stuff right now. So Season of the Bruja. 9 out of 10 would recommend. This is a very beautiful book for sure. I'm surprised you didn't get this one, but
I feel completely slipped under the radar. It feels like you said, Oni Press doesn't publish a whole lot, so I feel like when they do, a lot of times they slip through the cracks. Unfortunately,
this one's beautiful. I think that it's like one. I know I've said it before on the show, but sometimes I'll read a book and be like, I could see John's kids reading this, and I could see his daughters reading this one and liking it. So, it gets the seal of approval for me. The last indie on my list is a little book called Something is Killing the Children.
A little indie book, she said. It's called Something is Killing the Children.
I'm going to go ahead and say unpopular, maybe not unpopular opinion, but like hot take, hot opinion. I would say that this book is almost as popular as Saga right now.
No, I would agree. I don't think that's an unpopular opinion. I think that that's just a fact.
So issue number 21 came out. This book has been on a hiatus for a couple of months while House of Slaughter was coming out. So not only did the previous arc, like the last 5 issues of Something is Killing the Children, focused on Erica's backstory and her being introduced into the House of Slaughter, then we got the actual book House of Slaughter, and then now the issue 21. This issue, I'll be very, very honest, was very jarring to me because it just drops you into the world of a new character that I swear to God I thought was just Erica as an emo teenager, because she's got the same looking eyes and she's maybe got some like green and pink in her hair, and we see this young girl as right after her parents have just been killed. So like it feels like a same scenario. And then it looks like Erica's going to adopt her, bring her on the mission. We're going to do Lone Wolf and Cub with Erica Slaughter and is it Gina? I think the new girl's name is. So yeah, I did pick up a couple different covers. I picked up this one, this beautiful cover right here. And then I did pick up the bloody and non-bloody mask versions. You can actually, I won't open it up, but like this mask flips open and you can see the rest of the face.
Well, that's kind of neat.
Yeah. So there we go. Those were all my indies. Do you have any other indies?
I have no indies.
Okay. So chat, it's up to you. Marvel or DC? Which one are we going to be reading next? Yeah, so issue 21 of Something is Killing the Children is our first current storyline since like 16, correct? What else? Marvel or DC? I've got like maybe 10 Marvel books. and maybe like 3 or 4
Oh
DC.
man, I don't have. I might have 10 altogether. I'm kind of split down the middle in terms of what books we have.
Okay. Let's see. I've got one.
I vote for this comment.
Swamp Fang. Okay. Give the people what they ask for. And I lied. I've got like 2 Marvel book or 2 DC books, and one of them is Swamp
That's
Thing.
okay. I'll cover it up. I got you.
The only other Marvel book that or DC book that I got other than Swamp Thing is Trial of the Amazons Wonder Girl. Reading this makes me sad that there's only 2, because I felt like this book was exactly where I wanted Yara Flor to be from the beginning of the new Wonder Girl series.
I'm so torn with how I felt about this book.
How did you feel about this?
I was back and forth constantly because I agree with you.
It was quick.
It feels like we got the watered down version of what this was supposed to be, because fun fact, this cover that I have here was originally supposed to be a variant cover for number 8, which was canceled to give way for Trial of the Amazons. And it feels like the very beginning of this whole book, and that's what I enjoyed, I think, the most, was how this book started off. It feels like this was supposed to be a whole arc. And instead it got condensed down into 4 or 5 pages.
Especially because like stuff like this that's just so beautiful. Exactly. It could have been an entire book for me.
Exactly. So to kind of premise it in the very beginning of the book, we're kind of given backstory of how at the end of issue 7 of Wonder Girl, she was taken on by the, I'm going to butcher these names, I can't pronounce anything, but how she was taken on by the Esqueda. And she was introduced to her sisters and was introduced to her culture and the culture that her mother came from, because we actually learn in the book that I believe her mother was an Amazon and then ran off and lived with this tribe and became one with them and a part of their culture. And we get to just see some really, really great moments. We get to see some character designs. We get this whole almost Princess Mononoke type feeling where something is poisoning the waters and something is poisoning the animals, and the animals are now fighting back. And you get this giant boar fight between Yara and her sisters and the giant boar. And I'm like, okay, we're on Princess Mononoke time. This is fine with me. And then it feels like just as quickly as that started, we jump back into Trial of the Amazons. And if you're like me and have not been reading Nubia and Wonder Woman, you know, I only read Trial of the Amazons number 1 and then Wonder Girl number 2. I was kind of lost. I'm like, what the hell is going on? You know, Hippolyta is actually dead. People are now in mourning. There's this big fight between all of them. Cassie Sandsmark apparently has been tasked to uncover what is going on. And it's just, I hate events. I hate events so much.
Especially when they like completely disrupt the storytelling.
It just makes me sad, because you get some really great moments, like I said, when Yara is with her people and learning about her culture. And even so, when we're in that Trial of the Amazons moment and Yara is interacting with Hippolyta, you know, we get to see that personality from Yara that it felt like was running stale in her own series, but that we had seen in Future State Wonder Girl, or Future State Wonder Woman rather. And I think a part of this is just, it's too much back and forth within one issue. It's like one moment we're here, the next moment we're there, 2 more pages in where, you know, 5 issues back, and it just doesn't make any sense. And unfortunately, I agree completely. You kind of lose focus on what you really want. And for this book, it's Yara Flor. I want Yara Flor, and I'm not getting enough of it.
I wish, and I do wish that, because when we first got the new Wonder Girl series, when we got that after the Future State events, it felt like we were learning who Yara Flor was, but in ways that didn't matter. Like, I didn't need to see her in the regular human world, but then like on the bus and stuff like that felt a little bit like jarring. I really wish that
it felt like wasted page time.
It did, and especially just for them to go and to her have the whole thing with Ares. I wish that they would have started here. I really wish that they would have started with this plot. Like you said, just give her Princess Mononoke moment.
And
But
just drop her right into this universe.
I think that we are going to see more of Yara Flor, but it's going to look different, right? There's either a new Amazon's book or something that is coming out that we'll see.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So that's how we. That's.
And to Banshee Queen's point, they're the worst because you need to read the other series to understand what's going on. And then this is only 2 issues, so then people aren't going to read it anyways. But I feel like this was enjoy anyways. Yeah.
It's just too much. It's all too much.
Yep.
But you know what else is too much? A little book that came out last week called The Human Target. And listen,
Tom King is such a good writer.
he is a good writer. I'm not discrediting that. I think that he's a very good writer, but I'm very upset and I'm very disappointed. So this issue focuses, of course, on our human target Chance, along with my girl Ice, and they're having some missteps in their relationship. It was revealed in issue 5 that it's been revealed that Fire may be the one that, well, I mean, yes, and they boned, but it's been revealed that Fire may have been the one that was trying to kill Lex Luthor because she's upset that Lex Luthor killed Ice, which, I mean, yeah, if you kill my girlfriend, I'm going to be upset too. We've already seen that in X-Men with Destiny and Mystique, so to get it on the other side of DC, that's fine with me. However, in issue 6, we see, that conflict kind of take shape, and, Ice runs off, wants something to do with the human target, and then they make up and they boink. And I'm like, okay, y'all boink. It's fine. It's whatever. I don't need to see you boinking again, but y'all boink. Well, then my boy, Guy Gardner, shows up.
This
And
is where
listen,
we're going to get into some spoiler
we're
territory.
getting into massive spoilers, y'all. So if you don't want to be spoiled by Human Target number 6, walk away now. But my boy Guy Gardner shows up, and listen, what was it, issue 2 or issue 3, when Guy Gardner is showing up and he's just kind of being a menace. He's being a menace to society. He's trying to basically ruin the date between, Human Target and Ice. And, there's a lot of people that were calling out Guy's toxic behavior. I personally thought it was funny, at least in that issue, because what he was doing was harmless. It was just him kind of being a douche hat. And I'm like, okay, that's why I like Guy, because he's a douchebag and I can acknowledge that and it's fine. However, in the 6th issue, Guy Gardner shows up and he transforms in from this menace, this harmless menace, to a literal abusive asshole where he is laying hands on Ice. And listen, Guy Gardner and the history of him and Ice go way back. If I'm being quite honest with you, in the mainline continuity, because it's kind of been assumed at this point that everything that's happening in these DC Black Label titles, they are outside of continuity. And that's great, because I like the fact that with these DC Black Label stories, and we'll get more into that later, we can get these kind of new faces on stories and these new faces on characters and kind of, play that what if scenario without it being a glaringly what if. However, in mainline continuity, this relationship between Ice and Fire, while it's subtly hinted at, it's blatantly obvious with Guy Gardner. So when Ice dies and, Guy Gardner is dating her, he's the one that kind of goes on this rampage because he feels lost without her. He feels like he's responsible for her dying, and he goes into this, mess and revenge quest. So to see him kind of switch from this man that loves this woman more than life and death itself and is willing to do things for her, to see him now putting his hands on her, as somebody who is a Guy Gardner fan, it rubs me the wrong way. And it makes me feel really uncomfortable.
Hashtag hear me out. I've read the first issue of Human Target. I haven't read past it, and I don't have the history of DC knowledge that you do. But what I would say from what I just heard from you is that is classic toxic behavior, because what do people say about abusers all the time is, I never thought that he would do something like that, because abusers will be nice or they'll do something that they're joking, and then behind the scenes, or all of a sudden they snap and it's like they are laying hands on their victims. So like 100% I would say like that's classic abuser
classic abuser traits. Yeah.
Mentality, traits, characteristics,
And I
whatever.
think maybe that's part of why I'm getting so upset, because I don't like the idea of thinking that my favorite Green Lantern is a nasty, abusive asshole. Also, we have to stop everything right here because Wyatt Kennedy is in the chat, y'all. Wyatt Kennedy is the writer on Bolero, which we have been proclaiming since the beginning that it is our book of the year for 2022. So thank you so much for stopping by and leaving us some great words, because we really do.
And if you missed it and you're late, Wyatt, like seriously,
We love this
telling
book.
everyone we love this book. We are telling everyone to go out, run, do not walk. Please go pick up this book. Also, Wyatt, message us. Let us know if you want to chat.
Yeah,
we
need to get Wyatt on the show, because we need to pick their brain about everything regarding Bolero, because we've got a lot of thoughts and a lot of questions, and I would love to just be able to get into the meat of that book. But yeah, so I don't like the idea of seeing, you know, my boyfriend Guy Gardner, who we have listen, we have you know, established on this channel, that is the love of my life, that is my comic book husband.
Not
sorely because I had a dream 6 or 7 years ago that me and Guy Gardner got married. So now we're married in IRL. It's whatever. It's weird. Dreams don't matter. I don't like seeing him like this, and it kind of rubs me the wrong way. But I guess it doesn't matter, because Ice and the Human Target, I guess, together, because it's a dual effort, they literally smash him to pieces. Like, Ice freezes him, and then Chance, the Human Target, punches him in the face, and he shatters into a million pieces. And then they make out on his dead body. So, I mean, classic, right? It's just really weird, and I hate it.
Do you think that it's being set? Do you think that it's being set up for a relationship between them, though, between Fire and Ice? Like, do you feel like they're going to come together and be like, "I'm done with boys, and I'm turning into a lesbian"?
Listen, if Tom King loves me, okay, if Tom King loves me, he will make them. Where's the sign at? He will do what needs to be done, and he will make it gay, you cowards. Because listen, I have never seen a more sapphic relationship in comics than Fire and Ice, and my childhood self knew that upon watching Justice League Unlimited. So I just need DC Comics to fire the gun and make them gay. So that's all I need.
Well, speaking of, I don't know, DC doing things. I'm trying to.
What did DC do? What did DC do?
Oh, just DC does everything for me. Swamp Thing. Speaking of, here, how about this?
Swamp Thing.
Speaking of Swamp Thing, my comic book husband, new issue came out. I feel like, so there was a little bit of a break, a couple of months, and it was teased that Swamp Thing, or at least previous Swamp Thing to Levi, his daughter Teffy, that she would be joining. And this one keeps having that story of like, what do you owe your bloodline? Like, are you the sum of all of your parts? Who are you as a person? Anyways, Swamp Thing is absolutely incredible. It did get extended. It was supposed to be like 12, and now it's going to 16, which I'm really happy. And I got this really cool Francisco Francavilla cover, which is a throwback to some of the some of the Alan Moore. So
very cool, very cool.
Yeah, I really love it, especially because I think Tiffy is an underrated character, and I think that she deserves her own damn series. If you didn't know, she's the love child between the like little throuple that Abigail, Swamp Thing, and Constantine were.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
So that's my pitch. Please read Swamp Thing.
That's your pitch every month. Is just please read Swamp Thing.
Please read Swamp Thing. Okay, that's all the DC books that I have. But now I have some.
Well, I have one more DC book.
Oh, what's your last?
Yes, we have one more DC book. I have a little partner in crime here. I have one more DC book, and other than Bolero, because Bolero was last week, this is this week. Maybe actually, I think that book was last week. Either way,
Bolero was last week. Yeah.
This is my book of the week. Right next to Bolero. I'm very, very surprised on this book, because I looked at it, was like, I really don't want to read it. Heard some things, was like, oh, it's a number one, so I have to read it. And that is Rogues, #1, the newest book from DC Black Label. It is done by Joshua Williamson with art by Leo Mack, who did Basketful of Heads. Bruh. I know, it's 2022 and I'm still using the word bruh. It's fine. This book is so ridiculously good. It's not even funny. I don't know what the hell is going on with Black Label right now and these oversized series.
Mm-hmm.
I am absolutely obsessed. I know I was not a fan of Black Label when it first debuted, but right now, between Wonder Woman Historia, between Wonder Woman Dead Earth, and between Catwoman Lonely City, I am on board. This book honestly feels like the perfect companion piece to Catwoman Lonely City. It's not even funny. I am obsessed. So, to kind of give you a breakdown, Rogues follows Leonard Snart, who is Captain Cold. Captain Cold is a Flash villain. That's all I know about him because I don't read the Flash. I don't care about Snart. I don't care about the Rogues. I don't care about Flash's Rogues Gallery. I think they're kind of boring. I mean, okay, that's a lie. He's got some kind of cool ones. He's got Mirror Master. He's got, the Trickster. He's got Reverse Flash. Okay, cool, whatever. So it follows Leonard Snart. And it follows Leonard Snart when he's in his 50s. And at this point, he is a quote unquote reformed criminal. And it starts off with him being, met up by his parole officer. And his parole officer is make sure you're not doing anything bad. And we also get this really cool bar scene with all of the villains. And that's something that's kind of actually always interested me, is that there is a bar in Central City where all the villains just go to hang out, and the Flash is aware of this bar, but it's almost like this protected space and box where it's if the villains are in there, you can't go in there. And I really like the idea that, they're just throwing out things like that. The Riddler slept with Cheetah, that so-and-so did this, so-and-so did that. And I just think it's funny. So we get introduced this really cool bar scene, and then it jumps 10 years later. Leonard Snart is reformed. He's being met by his parole officer, being told, make sure you're being a good boy. We then follow Leonard Snart as he goes through a mundane life. He has this worker job, he's commuting to and from work, but he feels empty and lifeless. And I'm like, damn, this is really relatable right now. And I don't like that. And, we get talks of this promotion that he's going to get, but they're not promoting him for the sake of promoting him. They're promoting him just to, check a few diversity boxes. And it makes him feel even more like this cog in the wheel. And something snaps in him. And he's like, I don't want to live this life anymore. He's like, I would rather be dead than to be a cog in the wheel. And I'm like, you know what? I resonate with that, pal. I resonate with that completely. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to put together this one last job. I'm going to get a bunch of my friends together. We are going to go into Gorilla City, get a bunch of gold, come back and live off of that and be happy. And he has to track down his sister. He tracks down Trickster. He tracks down Mirror Master. And it's just really interesting. And I love the idea of seeing all of these criminals that have been reformed kind of be dragged back into the situation to do this one last job. It feels very Suicide Squad, Secret 60, but it also feels very personal. And I love when we get to see villains in this light, where it's villains not being bad because they can be bad, but being bad because there's a motivation behind it, because they're so tired of their life right now that being bad is the only way to make them feel human again.
Make them feel alive.
And I'm like, I haven't had a book with villains resonate with me in a way since Secret 6. We did get Tom Taylor's Suicide Squad, but let's be honest, they didn't feel like villains. They felt like resistance heroes, and I'm not saying that is a bad thing. But I get to see villains be villains and interact with other villains and just have fun. And honestly, if you're a fan of Gail Simone's Secret 6, pick this up because it's funny, it's smart. And the fact that it's from Joshua Williamson, who I feel writes a lot of books right now that all kind of feel the same. I had to do a triple check to make sure who was writing this book. Yes, I agree. We had to do a triple check. He agrees with me. I was so shocked by this book. If you are interested in anything at all relating to villains and interpersonal relationships, check this book out, because I finished it this morning, sat there and was like, I'm upset that I like this book.
Wow. I honestly wish that because I did not get any of that when I read this. I felt so confused. I was like, what is going on? I get the Suicide Squad vibes, and that's about it. But I don't know too much about the Flash's like gallery of
Oh, I
rogues.
know nothing.
And well, but I guess maybe you know more about DC,
Maybe.
like on this level than I do. So I honestly wish that I had just listened to your review before I read this one last week, because I read this one last week and I'm like, I am straight up not having a good time. I like the artwork. I thought
The
that
art's
was fun.
gorgeous. I love the art because it doesn't feel like an average superhero book. It feels like an indie book in some aspects to it.
100% agree. My only other piece of contention would be, I feel like this could still be a Black Label book because they do like alternative stories, I guess, but I did not need it to be oversized. This could have just been a regular, like, why is this oversized but Human Target is not? Why is this
Yeah,
oversized but
and
Swamp Thing is not? Give me
I agree. I will question why. What is their process for deciding what is oversized and what is not? Personally, I just personally like the oversized books. I didn't when they first came out, but then after reading Harleen, after reading Historia, after reading Dead Earth, I was like, damn, I kind of like the way that these feel. I just like the layout of it. It feels like it's more spaced properly. Whereas with a normal comic book, it feels like you have a lot of stuff just stacked on top of one another. And here you get room to breathe. Do I think that a book like Rogues necessarily needs to be in an oversized format? No, but I'm okay with it.
Like, I felt like this had room to breathe, but it, like, there's so much excess. Like, we're in a paper shortage, y'all.
You need to use it while it counts.
We're in a paper shortage. After your review just now, I'm going to try to go and read this.
I would give it another shot because, like I said, this was a book I read out of not convenience, but out of an obligation. This is a book I read out of obligation. And I ended up really, really enjoying it. Like, one of my favorite things DC has put out in a while.
Ooh. Alrighty. I've got some Marvel books now. Is everyone ready for Marvel? Can I get
some Marvel books, and I'm scared to talk about them because there's 3 goddamn X-Men books.
So let's go ahead and get those X-Men ones out of the way. Let me see here. I don't even know if I have 3 X books. One. I got some covers.
I guess one technically isn't an X-Men book. It's just a tie-in, but
yeah,
it has X-Men in the title, so I'm going to count it.
Let's go ahead. Do we want to start off with that one?
We can start off with that one.
Or
do you want to hit heavy? You want to start fighting right away?
Let's do this one because I know this is the one. This is the one you're talking about, right? That's like X-Men, but technically not X-Men. But
no,
like
it's not the one I'm talking about. But we can talk about it.
What are you talking about?
I was talking about Devil's Reign X-Men.
Talk about Devil's Reign X-Men because I am not on that book.
Devil's Reign X-Men number 3 came out last week. It was the finale of the 3-part tie-in for Devil's Reign, which I am not reading, but I'm reading Devil's Reign X-Men because it was Emma Frost against Wilson Fisk, and I'm like, what's going on with that?
Wilson Fisk is basically like he was blackmailing Emma Frost, right?
Yeah, for lack of a better word. And this book, I'm conflicted on how this book feels because the first couple pages of this book, I'm like in it. I'm like, yes, this is exciting. You have Emma Frost that's being taken in by Wilson Fisk's police force, for lack of a better word. At one point, somebody's not wearing a dampening collar. So because this individual is not wearing a dampening collar, it allows Emma Frost to kind of start fucking with people, for lack of a better word. And she's like, all right, well, you're going to do this and you're going to do that. And, oh, you're going to carry me now. I don't feel like walking anymore. So if you could carry me, that would be great. And I'm like, damn, I want a whole Emma Frost book because it was just a really small, sequence that happened. But so much happened at once in such a creative way because, of course, Emma Frost being a telepath, she can get away with literally murder and do whatever she wants. And she could have easily just been like, you uncuff me. walk into a wall and leave me alone. But she didn't. Instead, she kind of messed with them a little bit. And I kind of loved that. And I like seeing that personality come out from her. I want a whole Emma Frost book. Please give me an Emma Frost book. Then the book kind of divulges into its all, tie-in stuff.
Oh, you're muted.
Now I'm on mute. I thought I was on mute. My bad, y'all. Buttons are hard. So there is one part towards the end, Emma Frost, confronts Wilson Fisk, basically says, leave me alone or I'm going to kill you, and gets away with it, which is fantastic. However, I did not know, as the Wilson Fisk stan that I am, I did not know that he's married to Typhoid Mary right now.
Okay, yeah.
That's weird. Has
you're not reading you're not reading the like regular Devil's Reign, right?
No,
or Daredevil?
No, I'm not. I thought Wilson Fisk had one love and her name was Vanessa. Yeah. So I'm a little confused right now.
Yeah.
So I guess he's married to Typhoid Mary. While Emma Frost breaks into their house while they're sleeping, mind controls Typhoid Mary because for whatever reason she can't mind control Wilson Fisk, and proceeds to have Typhoid Mary straddle Wilson Fisk with a knife to his throat while Emma Frost watches. And it was kind of hot. I ain't gonna lie, it was a little hot. I kind of enjoyed it. But
that's the Marvel content.
Talk about peak power though. Peak power. Emma Frost is a bad bitch. This was just, I don't know. It was kind of boring, but it had some really fun moments. And again, just give me an Emma Frost book.
I agree. And I appreciate like the writers that are on these big books. Like I'm really glad that Rom V is getting to write like Venom and Carnage and all of that. But like, hear me out. Do we really need another Hulk book? Do we really need another Thor book? Do we really need another Venom, Carnage? Do we need all of those books? Like I would really love to see. And like granted, this same thing that I'm saying about this could be said about X-Men. Like, do we really need 20 X-Men books? But I really feel like we do need a just standalone Emma Frost book. Like
an Emma Frost book that's not geared toward horny teenagers with covers by Greg Horn.
Do it to horny adults who just want to see Emma live her best life.
Yes. I agree 100%. I will back this book. I will buy 20 copies of this book. I will.
Every variant cover. One of the Marvel X-Men books that I know that I read that I really liked was this one right here, X-Men Unlimited. The reason why I think that I really liked this one is because, yes, it's full of Wolverine, and of course it's just, he's the best at what he does, bub. But it was originally formatted for scrolling on your phone for the Marvel Unlimited app, and I feel like it translated so well to the page that I really thought it was fun. Did you get it? You got a chance to read this one?
I did read it. I read it this morning. I have some thoughts.
What are your thoughts? Because I feel like I like them, and you're going to do like what I've been doing all day. It was like, I did not like this book.
I have some thoughts. So this is a book. I'm okay. So let's premise this right now. So I am confused by the creative team of this book because in the credits in the front and the credits on Previews World, it has Jonathan Hickman as the writer and Declan Shalvey listed as the illustrator. However, when you read the letter from the editor note in the back, they talk about, excuse me, sir. They talk about, if you could not rip up my carpet, thank you. In the letter from the editor where they talk about how this was originally a digital format made for Marvel Unlimited, but is now being published to print, they almost make it seem like it is written and illustrated by Declan Shalvey.
Oh.
So I need to know the truth because depending on the truth of the matter reflects on how I feel about this book. Because I'm going to come out and say it. I'm going to tell you how I feel about this.
You're going to break my heart.
This is
you're right. It does say that. It says written and drawn by Declan Shalvey.
Okay. So that being said, I believe that is true because there is no way that this is written by Jonathan Hickman because I enjoyed this so much. And the whole time I'm reading it, I was like, there's no way that this is Jonathan Hickman because this book is funny and to the point. It is short and sweet, and it made me laugh.
Yeah.
Jonathan Hickman has never made me laugh in my entire life.
But it
Okay.
did do things like this. We did get the Hickman dump. We did get some weird
We did.
ones.
Well, that being said,
They
and
were
I was going to
short.
get to that point. You goddamn skipped on me here. So it does do the little info dump. I think this is the best quote unquote info dump that we've ever had because
Yeah.
you get all this block of text. So all right, let's go back. I'm jumping ahead. So this book is Wolverine going up into space to rescue mutants because MODOK has captured the mutants and MODOK is fucking with them the whole time on the computer. So obviously this book has already been made for Jen. So in this little Hickman info dump, you get this little like text pattern, almost computer-like generated thing. And then when you flip the page, and this is why I think it's the best one because it scared the shit out of me. You continue to get this info dump, but it looks like MODOK's face. And when I say that it's very hard for a book to jump scare me, this book scared the shit out of me, okay? I was like, what the hell is that? So I think that that is the best, what do you call it? Best
Info dump.
info dump that we've ever gotten, other than the confirmation that Jean Grey has bedroom doors connected to both Wolverine and Cyclops. I still think that's the best one.
That didn't
But
happen in this one, but yeah.
But I liked this book. I thought it was fun. I liked the action. I loved the humor.
Yeah.
The humor in this book really reminded me of Matthew Rosenberg
Oh,
and some of his short and sweet and to the point humor. Like there's a point where Wolverine breaks into this box and the guy's like, dude, do you know what's in there? And Wolverine's like, I can feel the temperature. I know exactly what it is. And it's a beer. And the guy's like, well, that's the beer of the guy that you just sent out the airlock. So how do you really feel about it? And I'm like, well, you know what? I guess we'll just toast to this guy and call it a day. And then he's like punching the dude in the face to get information.
yep.
I
Listen,
listen, this is the content I crave from my X-Men books. If every X-Men comic was like this, where it was just fun, character-driven moments and the characters having fun, I would be the biggest goddamn X-Men fan to ever exist. This book was made for me. Did I want to read this book? No. I literally picked this cover up because of course I did. Was like, God damn it, it's a number one. So I feel obligated to read it. And this was one of my favorite things that I read. I really enjoyed this book a whole lot. It was a lot of fun.
You know, at first when you're like, I have opinions, I'm like, oh no, she's gonna hate this book and she's gonna trash it for like a weird arbitrary reason.
No, I really like this book. My only gripe with it is I need confirmation. Is it definitely Hickman or is it definitely Declan Shalvey? I'm sorry, I had to look at the comments because apparently I'm pronouncing names wrong again. It's fine. Because if it is Declan Shalvey, great. This is wonderful. If it is Jonathan Hickman, no, it's not, and there's a ghostwriter on this book.
I think the reason why they credit both of them is because this was written in the Hickman X-Men era, which technically, like, Hickman isn't writing X-Men anymore, but they will be.
That's why I was confused.
But because this one was written and illustrated for Marvel Unlimited before it went to print, I think that's why. So I think because Hickman was technically still head of X when this was written, that's why they're giving him credit as a writer.
But they shouldn't, because then that takes away from Declan, and that kind of annoys me and kind of pisses me off. You could have a little blurb in there being like, you know, Dawn of S, House of X, you know, universe, whatever, credit due to Jonathan Hickman, but we gotta give, I mean, if it was Declan writing those jokes, Declan should get credit for writing those jokes, because Jonathan Hickman couldn't do it.
Under that same criteria, though, I think that, I mean, maybe this is the unpopular opinion, but then I would say under those criteria, I would say that you could say that Stan Lee shouldn't be credited on a lot of things, which 100%, like, Jack Kirby was right. Like, I don't know. But I would say that is that, like, classic style of maybe, like, Marvel writing. So... But I agree. This was a fun, good book.
It was a fun issue. It was a really great, like, little... I mean, it's not a one-shot because there's a part 2 to it, but I feel like if you just want a fun little X-Men book that has good Wolverine content, I would recommend that 100%.
Yep. And that's, like, easy, where I feel like you don't really need to know what's going on. You just, like Wolverine, just jump right into it.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Wolverine, did you read Wolverine Patch?
No, I did not.
Okay. This book was from last week, and it's basically Wolverine being James Bond. Going into does he go to Madripoor? Wherever he's at. It was kind of fun. I don't take it seriously. And I'll be very, very honest. It was fun, but I don't see myself reading the rest of it until maybe it comes out in trade. It's a limited issue series. I'm probably not going to pick up the rest of it, but Wolverine.
It's a book. It exists.
Eye patch. Did anyone else read this book? I want to know. Have any other Marvel books?
I have 2 other Marvel books, and Azorius Comics pops up and says, if you like this one, meaning X-Men Unlimited, you're gonna love X-Men Green. So I will definitely be on the lookout for that. It also makes me think, and I should have bought this up when we were talking about how these were stories originally formatted for Marvel Unlimited and bought to print. Hear me out. Am I gonna get that Jeff the Landshark series bought to print? Give me the Jeff the Landshark digital series bought to print. That would be really great. Thank you.
He's
I feel like we should save the big one for last.
What's the big one for last?
You know what the big one is.
Is it the one that came out this week, obviously? Okay. So one of the other books that I don't know if you were on this series, Dark Ages.
I had read the first issue, liked it enough that I decided I would do a trade wait.
Well, your wait is almost over. This is the last issue number 6. This ends really quickly, I feel like, but it was still a really fun series, and I really feel like, so for those of you who haven't been watching, Dark Ages is a book by Tom Taylor that basically goes into this alternate timeline where we see our characters, like a lot of our Marvel characters, existing in a universe where they don't have power. Apocalypse comes through, basically ruins power grid, power structure, something like that. So a lot of characters who rely on that all of a sudden don't and can't. So some characters that don't necessarily use technological capabilities can shine a little bit. I think that this is going to be a really great series for people who have a very basic knowledge of Marvel characters, but don't necessarily want to read 4 or 5 volumes of another like trade and get into characters. You can literally just pick up Dark Ages and enjoy it. So this just ended. This is the last issue. It was really, really good. Tom Taylor is great. Pick it up.
Tom Taylor is great. We
Tom
agree.
Taylor is great. Didn't read that one. I didn't read that one. Did you pick up this book? I got 2 covers. Grand Design.
I did not. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I don't think I've ever read a Hulk book in my entire life. I've read She-Hulk books, but I don't think I've ever read a Hulk book.
Well, I would almost say that this one might be a good book for you. It does the like throwback type artwork. And what it does is it gives us a history, like not just a history of Hulk as a character, but like a publishing history as well. So this book was really fun. I feel like Hulk is a fun character to do this with. Kind of the way that like let me think, they did Fantastic Four life story, Spider-Man life story, doing that, but in a more like, I forget who on the Friday night chat described it as like a Wikipedia page. I feel like this would be a really good book for someone who might want to get into a character but hasn't been able to for whatever reason. It's only 2 issues. So this is issue 1, and then there's going to be a second issue.
Now, can you read issue 1 and issue 2 separately, or do you have to read them together?
I would say that you probably need to read issue 1, then read issue 2.
Okay. The only reason I was asking is because I know I have a variant pre-ordered for issue 2.
Oh, I got the variant for issue 1, and I really like it.
I do. I love that. I just like that style of art, and I wish we could go back to that and see more of that with superhero titles and kind of give that vintage feel, but modernize it.
Totally agree. I think the one last book that I have left is just one, and it's a little book.
You didn't read this one?
I didn't read that one. I have it, but I didn't read it.
So, Demon Days Blood Feud, number 1, which is actually number 4 or 5. This is the final issue in the Peach Momoko saga. So Peach Momoko basically did her own thing where she took original characters that she had created and basically translated characters from Marvel Universe into a more feudal Japan style. So you got characters like Storm, Thor, the Hulk. You got throwbacks to characters like Jubilee and even Wolverine, and kind of spun it into its own thing. I really do like this story. I think that it has a lot of charm. It's absolutely gorgeous. Again, it's the same song and dance, it feels like, with every issue, where it's why is each one labeled as a number one rather than each one labeled as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a really great story for the mainstream audience to get into, and considering how popular manga is nowadays, it's an easy book for those type of readers to gravitate to, but alienates them when they see issue one, issue one, issue one, issue one. So hopefully with this
And then
being
only issue 1, because then you're
an
like,
only
"Wait,
issue one.
am I gonna get an issue 2?" They really should have just done the first one, issue
Not
1,
only
issue.
that, but then it's like you have all of them and you're like, well, what order do I now read them in? And you shouldn't ever have to do that. With the trade being published, I hope that makes it a little easier to read. I personally felt lost because there were several months between issues and you kind of lose track of some of the story. So now that it's over, I'm definitely going to go back and read everything from start to finish. But that's not all, folks, because Peach Momoko announced on Wednesday that they are doing yet another series that is, I believe it's called Demon Days, like the Armor Wars or the Armored Samurai or something like that, and it's basically a retelling of Marvel Civil War, but done in her feudal Japan universe. And of course, I'm going to pick it up because her artwork is gorgeous, but I'm hoping that we're not going to be doing the same thing. And I hope Marvel kind of learns from their lesson. And if this Marvel Civil War Peach Momoko verse thing happens, and it is more than one issue, because I'm sure it will be, it needs to be issue 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, not issue one, issue one, issue one, issue one, because I feel like you're just losing so much. And I feel like this book could be so much bigger if it was just 1 through 5.
And I think it is confusing because these are not linear storylines, right? So to give them all like the Demon Days, like I feel like you could read the second one and not having to have read the first one. Like you can read them out of order.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the trade is coming out. It's going to have, I think, only 4 issues. There was only 4 or 5 issues of this series that was published. So that will be coming out in the next couple months.
It will be. So
Yeah.
that's how I feel about that.
Now I've got one last book.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any more books?
I think it's the same book.
Okay. It's the same book. Because we are both really big X-Men fans here. I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna lie. There were lots of moments that I really, really liked about this book, especially Irene Adler hanging out in a park with Mr. Sinister, even though I fucking hate Mr. Sinister. This book was kind of confusing to me. There are a ton of just like, this is just X-Men drama. This is just, we are the drama. This is X-Men Euphoria. Can I say that?
I actually, yeah, that works. I believe that more than what was it you were saying? The last session Euphoria? Yeah. No, X-Men, Immortal X-Men Euphoria, I believe way more than.
Like, I love so many of these characters here, but I think it's just Mr. Sinister ruins a lot of it for me. And I don't know, just give me a fucking Mystique and Destiny book. Inferno wasn't even a Destiny and Mystique book. Just give me a book with them too. That's it. Emma Frost can pop in every now and then. But even for me, I felt like this was a really, really confusing book. Maybe it's because it's Kieran Gillen and
it is Kieran Gillen, and that's exactly what I feared.
They have great concepts, but then there's just too much talking, there's too much dialogue. I feel like I could literally hear every single X-Men's voice talking in this one, and it was just overwhelming for me, which is really sad because I really do love
it. Was
X-Men.
a lot of voices. I agree. It was a lot of voices, a lot of things going on. I felt like I was having trouble with just kind of identifying who was speaking in the moment, especially being a newer, I guess, X-Men fan and not knowing all of these characters and their personalities, maybe as well as somebody like yourself does. Personally, I've said it before. I want this age of X-Men to just end. I thought it would end when Jonathan Hickman left, but apparently that's not the case. The Hickman verse is here to stay. So I either have to get off the train or just keep riding along the back of it and complaining about it the whole time. I will say, I was introduced to a new character that I am in love with. Her name is Celine. She is my new queen. Yes, I rhymed that on purpose. If I could get a whole book with her, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. I love her. Would die for her. 10 out of 10 would die.
Maybe we will. Maybe we will see that
10 out of 10 would die. I just love so the whole concept of Immortal X-Men. This is goldfish brain now trying to decipher what happened in Immortal X-Men because I feel like the plot is very simple, but it's strung out for way too long. Yeah. So let's break it down. Let's give you the cliff notes rather. All right, we got the Quiet Council, right? Quiet Council, there's so many people. They're in charge of Krakoa, yada, yada. Magneto decides, all right, I'm done. I'm leaving. I'm going to do my own thing. Don't know why he's leaving. Were we told that in another series, or is that just still up in the air?
I don't know, but even though I love Magneto, I'm like, my dude, this is not an airport. You do not need to announce your departure.
Magneto's just deciding he's going to leave. He's done with Quiet Council.
Yeah, you could just yeet yourself out of the Quiet Council and like, I don't know, you can do whatever the hell you want. You could literally go and create your own fucking loud council with whoever you want to, and no one would have a fucking choice.
I love that. So Magneto leaves. There's a spot left on the Quiet Council, so obviously they got to fill it. So they're putting to a vote, I guess, of all these different people that could go on to the Quiet Council. At one point, my girl Celine shows up and is like, listen, y'all have nobody that does magic, okay? You need somebody that handles magic because little Miss Wanda Maximoff back in Trial of Magneto unleashed a bunch of kaiju on y'all, and only she could fix it, even though she caused it. So you kind of need a magic expert, and I feel like I fit that role, so please hire me. Yeah. Well, then Rachel Summers?
Mm-hmm.
Rachel Summers shows up and is like, yeah, no. And stop me if I'm wrong, because I feel like I'm doing a good job at reinterpreting this. Rachel Summers shows up and is like, yeah, no, we're part of the whole resurrection team. Okay, cool, I'm getting that right. We're part of the resurrection team. You need somebody that has a voice on there to be part of that resurrection team.
Yeah, and that because that's like a big part of like. Mm-hmm.
I get that. So she's like, you know, you got to have me instead. So they're like, okay, cool. You right. Celine, we're sorry. You gave us a good point, but we have to go with this other candidate now. And so Celine is like, you know what? And I feel like I should start acting this way in every rejected job interview. Celine is just like, all right, you didn't choose me, so I'm going to burn it all down to the ground. And she unleashes giant worms. And that's how the issue ends. And I think it's great. And I kind of love the fact that she's a person that once she is hit with rejection, her first, thing is I'm going to burn it all down. Like that's the type of mindset I need to start living in. But I have a solution for all of this, why is Colossus on the Quiet Council? Can we just kick him out and put Celine and Hope Summers there and then, Rachel Summers? Like, why is Colossus there? Like literally, I'm like, so they're introducing, all of the people that are on the Quiet Council. And I'm like, okay, you make sense. You, whatever. I feel like Mystique blackmailed her way in, and that's cool. She can stay.
She was, I mean, she did kind of blackmail, but it was because Magneto and Charles were like, hey, we'll bring you Destiny back if you do some terrible shit for us. And they were being sneaky.
So they were being sneaky. So like the only two people that are on that council that I'm like confused, why are you here, is Nightcrawler, but I feel like Nightcrawler is doing something special with Legion or whatever. So he kind of seems in charge of something important. I don't know what, as an outsider looking in. He's in charge of something important. Okay, cool. What is Colossus doing that he deserves to be there? Can somebody answer that? Because I'm confused.
That's a pretty good point. My piece would also be, hey, why is there a limit? Like, it's all made up and the points don't matter. Just add people. And
government. I mean, you can't just make shit up for government. So
that's true. But it literally is just X-Men, and they make everything up all the time. And just in case you weren't aware, this is now the Luna portion of the show because he's decided to jump up here on my lap.
Yay for Luna.
Yeah. I like this book. kind of, not really. I love the premise of the book. I like everything that you just said, but Kieran Gillen does it in a way where it's not enjoyable.
It's so what I just described probably should have taken course over 5 or 6 pages, but instead it was taken over 40 pages.
Mm.
So I think we just solved the error here in the ways.
So just let us write X-Men. I think you should be writing X-Men as someone who is just like, I really don't like X-Men. I think you should be the one who's
Do you
writing.
want to know how I would go about writing X-Men? Is I would
Wait,
throw a bunch of action figures on the floor, and wherever they landed, whatever characters were next to whatever, we're just going to connect the dots at that point. We're going to see what happens. Let the dice, what is it? What's that saying where it's like, let the dice fall where they may,
oh,
or whatever it is? We're going to let the X-Men fall where they may and go from there.
yeah, that's exactly what needs to happen. Yeah. Well, that's pretty much all. That's all the like books that I have.
It is. That's all.
Do you have any other books?
I have a book. If I can grab it, because I made my very first library trip.
Ooh,
which is very exciting.
I saw this really nice stack of books that you got.
Made my very first library trip, which was very exciting because I have a library right across the street from me, so that's very, very convenient.
Dangerous.
Picked up a stack of books. I've got Moon Knight on order. I've got Barbalian on order, so I'm really excited. But I was able to pick up a couple things, and one of the books that I picked up and read was a book that I've been really, really wanting to read, and that is, Did You Hear What Ed Gein Did? Or Did You Hear What Eddie Gein Done?
I thought it's Ed Gein.
I think it's Gein. So in the book, they actually bring that up, where a lot of people call him Gein, but I think it's actually pronounced Gein. I may be wrong. I don't know. Maybe it's the opposite way. This was a really interesting biographical, like horror type story. So it goes through life and his issues with his mother, but presents it in, biographical yet very scary way. Then it goes into, yes, it's very scary. Then it goes into, up to him being caught and then what they find. And this was just a really, really good book. I would definitely recommend checking it out. If you have an interest in serial killers, this is definitely something that's up there. If you have an interest just in creepy ass horror, that's even scarier because it actually happened. This was a good book. I literally read this in like one sitting.
That, I've seen that book so many times, have just never picked it up. I don't even like some books I pick up and I'm like, maybe I should buy this. And then I'm like, nah, I'm going to wait. I haven't even like picked that book up, but the way that you just described it, like horror, biographical, I'm sold. And as soon as you said that, I'm like, I'm so glad that Stapled Spine is here, because I'm like, I could 100% see this being something that they like. So I'm really glad that you picked that one up, because it's going to be a little bit more on my radar now.
Yeah, it was a really good book. And I really like a lot of these biographical graphic novels. So like We Are the Enemy, or We Were Called the Enemy. There was another book that I read last year called Grass, which was about a Japanese it was a Japanese comfort camp and told from the perspective of a woman who lived through that. I, as somebody who struggles to read books without pictures now, I like being able to learn about these things as they've happened in history, but in a way that I can consume it. So I think that there's definitely a market for more of these biographical graphic novels. Yeah. And I personally would love to see more of them.
I'm a big fan of those. And one of the ones that I read recently, there was one that I read, let me think, called Man in Furs. And it was about this author who was the author of Venus in Furs. And it goes on this like whole BDSM relationship that he had. And it's fucked up, but it was really good. But another one that I read recently was Artemisia, about the 17th century painter Artemisia Gentileschi. And that was really, really good. So I feel like I could do it.
I didn't even know that existed, and I love her, and that's one of my favorite paintings of all time. So I'm definitely
Which one is that?
The beheading of Judas.
Can I tell you that I just bought a sweatshirt with that painting on it?
I told my partner I want to hang it up in the house somewhere, and they were immediately like, no, I'm vetoing that decision.
Okay,
like,
well, I'm going to buy you the sweater, so since you can't have the poster, you can literally
just have the sweater. I love it. I love it so much.
Well, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for showing up and listening to us talk comics and news and movies and TV shows. I really can't wait to come back next week and to be able to talk about Moon Knight. I'm hoping that I'm hoping that I'm going to be pleasantly surprised.
I'm hoping that you don't break my heart, but that's
Yeah.
okay.
I'm hoping that Moon Knight doesn't break my heart because I really am excited for it. I really hope that for me the series gets better and more cohesive and just I needed it to explain some stuff. So
Mhm.
um Luna, can you tell everyone bye? He can't hear me. Well, thank you for everyone for being here. We will see you next Sunday. Bye.